Hey, what's up, Brandon? So you can probably see there's a little hoop around the top of the dipstick guide, and it bolts right there. I believe it actually goes behind the alternator bracket. So the alternator bracket, one of them goes there through the dipstick retainer. It's like a retainer ring, and it slides over the dipstick. It should be there already. If it's not, then they took it off, just to keep it from rattling around. So there's that. There's where that large brace that you showed. It goes, as you can see, under the motor mount. So I'm caught on something here, sorry. It goes under the motor mount, so you're going to have to pull the motor mount off on this side only, and you can see the motor mount is risen on the left side. It's a little different. It's deeper on this side and risen on the other side. And then the one bolt to this water pipe goes there, and I believe the other one goes to the block. I'll try and get underneath, but you can see there, right there is one bracket off the water pipe, goes to the top right bolt on the driver's side, and the other one, if I can see it, other one goes right here to the outside. See, the water pipe goes to the outside of the bottom left motor. Is it a motor mount bolt? Okay. It goes through that alternator pivot bracket thing right there. So you could probably see that. There's the alternator pivot bracket that you're asking. Where does this go? So, and then up there, you can see the steering brace. It goes actually to the block. It doesn't go through the cover. And then the alternator bracket does go through the cover towards the top. So hopefully you get both of those in before you get everything back together, because it can be a pain. It's a little hard to see here now that I got it all together, but that's the other end of the alternator bracket. One end goes into the cover, and it has to be put in like through this right there in the center of the picture, that steering pump brace. That bolts into the front of the block and pivots upwards, and then you mount it into the steering pump that you probably already have, and then the alternator bracket goes through it. So it's kind of a because you can see on the steering pump bracket thing, it's like a horseshoe, and the other side of the steering pump that it holds onto is the bottom left bolt if you're facing the front of the motor. So the one you can't see on the other side, that's the other side of the power steering brace that mounts into the block. So the back one goes there, and the bottom left bolt there, right there, and the other one goes on the other bottom left from the front. So bottom left from the rear, and bottom left from the front. It'll mount into there. This is just the whole bracket that holds the thing to the head. On the other side, you can't see it, but it's there. So that's it for that. I'm looking again. I noticed that your dipstick is in, and they bolted it in. I was going to say, oh my God, they didn't possibly do that to you, but they got it right. So you just have to see if you can find that bracket. It's like a hoop bracket that bolts together. and holds the dipstick in. You can bend it out, and they probably bent it out and slid it off when they took the dipstick out, or it fell off. And it really should be there, because otherwise it keeps it from vibrating like crazy. You don't really want that, so because it's vibrating on the other end, and it's also vibrating up here where it can wiggle its way to knock in the dipstick out. I have a new OEM dipstick. I didn't get it. Mine was I tried to get a couple in the junkyard and just didn't work. I'll show you a little bit of oil here. Okay, here is your pulley. I went and got a new bolt, and you can see, I'll try and get an angle here. It goes almost right up against the oil pump housing. You have a little plate on the back of your harmonic that slides up and over that flange that sticks out of the oil pump. So that's where you want to be when you get the pulley on. Okay. Obviously, if you can't get it on, you either sleeve the crank or you don't have the cog key in far enough. And it's very possible if he sleeved it, then he would have, done that so that you can get the, dang it, stupid light. Sorry about this. No idea why it's doing that. Okay. If you sleeved your crank, then that would explain why you're having trouble getting the crank pulley over the top of the crank all the way. But even then, I don't know. You should be able to, wiggle it on and, basically just wiggle from side to side a little bit, and it should eventually pop on. So that's where you want to be. And from here, you can see the alternator brace going up and through this thing in the center of the picture. That's the power steering pump support, which bolts into the block like I showed you right there, and then it goes up and over or around the water pump inlet pipe that comes out of the timing cover, and the alternator bracket does as well. I had to take mine all apart again to get that alternator bracket back in. So it's the shiny one in the center of the picture, and it actually bolts to the timing cover, to a timing cover bolt. So, well, I don't know what's going on with your crank. I'm sorry to hear that, man. That's bizarre. The only thing I can think of is that, well, the most logical thing I can think of is that you don't have the cog key all the way in. You have 3, I believe, in the crank before it gets to the all the way to the back where the oil pump drive spline goes on, and then then you have your front main seal, which is in the oil pump itself, and then the harmonic, the larger piece of the harmonic slides right into that, and that's what seals up your front end. So I don't know, maybe they found the crank was beyond limits and they wanted to put a sleeve on it and they didn't tell you, and you're having a hard time getting your crank pulley back on. Maybe it got tweaked or dropped. I wouldn't know, only you'd know that. So best of luck with that. I'm sorry, man. I don't really have much more time than this for now. I can probably help you once I get back out to Arizona. Alright, talk to you soon.